The Washington Nationals have announced their opening day starter, which means we have a good idea as to an opening day lineup for your Cincinnati Reds. Saddle up.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love these Cincinnati Reds. We have taken our love of the game. We have taken our love for this team, and we have turned that into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's podcast, we now know who is starting opening day for the Washington Nationals. So we're going to predict the Reds opening day lineup. Also, there's some interesting news out of Goodyear about the Reds rotation for the start of the season and the order in which it might go and where Andrew Abbott fits into it all. Jeff and I have several thoughts about that. And we are 9 days away from opening day. We will tell you who the Reds' best player to wear number 9 is and why it's put the C on his chest, Matt McLain. Before we get into any of that, I want to shout out the sponsor of today's podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use the code, all lowercase letters, lockedonmlb for your first deposit match of up to $100. And Jeff, here we go. Mark it down in pen.
Pending any injury updates.
We have your lineup for opening day.
Allegedly.
All right. Well, the Nats announced their starting pitcher, Jeff. Right-handed pitcher Josiah Gray goes for the Washington Nationals in Cincinnati on March 28th. And that lets us begin to really dial in what the Reds opening day lineup is going to look like. We know it's a righty on the mound. That means they're going to get their lefties into the starting lineup. Even though it's opening day, David Bell will play the handedness. He will play the analytics because he cannot help himself. We have talked about that. So it's pretty easy to start to construct a lineup based on that. Now, it is a little challenging given the Reds' ongoing injury situation and being without TJ Friedl. That changed a lot from what we've talked about previously. But let's dial in on this. I'm just going to go first right here. I think with Friedl out and David Bell saying that he likes a particular spot for Elly De La Cruz, leading off this game, starting for the Reds, I think will be Jonathan India. And I'm going to put him in this lineup as the designated hitter based on what we need to do with the lefties a little bit later in this lineup.
And I think that's an interesting one because India has shown in the past he can hit leadoff here. And I don't necessarily know that the only argument I would have on this is maybe Matt McLain, but I think that Matt McLain is better served elsewhere in the lineup. And I think Jonathan India makes the most sense, especially on opening day here, unless like another candidate emerges throughout the season, because I don't think that anybody else was on the depth chart underneath TJ Friedl for leadoff besides Jonathan India.
Yeah. So then second, number 2 hole here, Jeff. David Bell has told us, we've talked about this on a previous episode, he likes Elly De La Cruz batting second. He's been doing it in the spring. He said you can read into that. You can't read into the rest of his lineups, but that's where he wants Elly. So that's where we're putting Elly. Elly De La Cruz batting second, playing shortstop on opening day. Then we get to Matt McLain. As you mentioned, I think he's better suited, a little bit of pop. Get him down there in the 3 hole right now. Have him start the game at second base and go from there.
Oh, we are really as tightly as we can cross our fingers, hoping that Matt McLain is ready to go for opening day. Scratched from the lineup the other day with a sore shoulder. They said that it was nothing. Doctors checked him out. It's nothing. He should be back in the game, in a day or so. But yes, they really need him, and he is probably best suited for the number 3 spot in the Reds order. Elly, I love what Elly's been doing this spring, and it has nothing to do with his stats. He's just coming into opening day confident. His confidence is on fire right now. He will feel like he can do literally anything he possibly can on the field, and I love that.
Coming into the cleanoff spot, Jeff, I think there's lots of directions you could go once you get to number 4 based on what they're going to do with this lineup. But I really just like the idea of, regardless of where he's playing, whether it's first base, third base, or designated hitter, I like penciling in CES in the number 4 spot and let's just stick him there all year. Let's just let him eat with those fast guys in front of him, rack up some RBI totals. That'll keep the Tony Perez fans happy. Get this guy some RBIs, Mr. Clutch, and go on from there. I like CES as the cleanup guy.
The only counterpoint I would say is that I think David Bell has shown a tendency to bat Jake Fraley cleanup against right-handed pitching. There's a chance that we could see him slot into this 4 spot, but I'm with you. I am a CES believer. We talk about it till we're blue in the face. We think he's going to hit 1 million home runs and he's going to break every record possible. Okay, maybe not right out of the gate, but he's going to hit a lot of home runs. He's going to be a good power hitter. I think he slots in very nicely in that 4 spot.
So I did take that into account. I thought about that. And the reason that I didn't put Fraley there is because I think Fraley and Benson, I think these lefties are going to be subject to a lot of switches. And once the Reds get into the opposing team's bullpen, David Bell's going to bring righties off the bench. And I don't want Stuart Fairchild hitting cleanup in the 8th inning with the game on the line. I don't want that. I want CES in that spot. But I did consider that, Jeff. I decided with the switches that will come later in a game, I do not want to see some of these guys that are on the bench right now finding their way into games in a critical situation as the cleanup hitter. Moving on to number 5. Again, it's a right-handed pitcher on the mound. I think that in the 5 hole here, I like Spencer Steer in left field. There is an argument for him to be the number 3 guy in this lineup, but given Jonathan India's history as a leadoff hitter, given that you don't want to bat McLean lower, I think Spencer Steer just kind of naturally falls to number 5 here.
This is where I disagree with you. In fact, I think you flip him and the next guy because there is no way David Bell does not bat a switch hitter 3, 4, or 5 against a right-handed pitcher.
All right, that's a fair point. So, I have Candelario playing third base and batting 6th on opening day. You see it more as Candelario batting 5th, playing third base. Are we in agreement? Probably playing third base?
Oh, he's 100% going to be playing third base. I think that there's even a small chance he hits cleanup. They really believe in Jeimer Candelario. And I know that there's some folks out there that are like getting ready to type up the spring training stats and all that other stuff. Ain't worried about that with Candelario. But I definitely think he's going to bat 5th, and I think Spencer Steer bats 6th. So not a huge issue here with these two. I don't think that they flipped, that either one is too far out of position here. But yeah, that's definitely where it's going to be, especially with him being a switch hitter who has no platoon splits whatsoever.
Well, that gets us to number 7, and this is where I slotted in Jake Fraley. And again, he's just this low in the lineup versus a right-handed pitcher because I think David Bell switches him out later in the game. We will see Stuart Fairchild on opening day.
Once they go to a lefty reliever.
Once they go to a lefty reliever, we'll see Stuart Fairchild. So I have Fraley batting at number 7, playing right field. Some of these positions, are interchangeable. CES is going to be in the lineup. So is Candelario. Are they at first? Are they at third? It doesn't really matter. They can swap out. Same with the outfield spots as far as Fraley and Benson go. I have Fraley in right batting 7th, but he could very well play center field, and then Will Benson could play right. But I think the positions themselves are interchangeable. Fraley at 7. I put Tyler Stevenson at 8, playing catcher because I am with you. I know you talk about this a lot. The best number 9 hitter in baseball, Will Benson. I like him in that spot just for the advantages it gives you a little bit later in the game. So I round this lineup out with Will Benson batting 9th. I have him at center field in my lineup. Could be right field depending on what David Bell does. But even with the injury bug that has bitten this team, if all of the players that we've talked about here, 1 through 9, so India, De La Cruz, McLean, CES, Spencer Steer, Candelario, Fraley, Stevenson, Benson, if they are all healthy on opening day, that's still a pretty formidable lineup, Jeff, to start the season off.
I really like this lineup. And yes, I 100% agree with you. Will Benson's going to start in center field. Nick Kroll has come out and said that. He's not saying that just to blow smoke and then someone else is going to play center field. Like, Will Benson's going to be the center fielder. But the reason he bats number 9 is not because he is the worst hitter in this lineup. It is because of the damage that he can do whenever you get to the point where you can flip the lineup over. Because Will Benson will be able to flip the lineup over very well. And then you've got India, EDLC, and Matt McLean right behind him. That is a very beautiful thing. I'm with you. These guys, 1 through 9, that is a very, very dangerous lineup. I want to tell you this, though. Because of the injuries, and we've said, we're going to see Stuart Fairchild come off the bench whenever a lefty comes into the game, but because of injuries, I don't want to see this lineup change very much until TJ Friedl is healthy. We're going to tell you why about that, and we are going to get into the starting rotation conversation because there's a spot that's up for grabs that shouldn't be. That's coming up next. Testing my skills on PrizePicks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Get into the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your knowledge of sports into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000, like I said, with NBA, NHL, college basketball, MLB. It's all on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Download it today, and you can also put together some PrizePicks with MLB season stats. PrizePicks has Jonathan India's home run total at 17.5. Think I like clicking more on that one. And also, one that I love clicking more on is Alexis Diaz's save total, 32.5. Clicking more on that all day. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a $100 match on your first deposit. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. Baseball fans, mark your calendars for March 20th. That's tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time for the best MLB season preview, coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today on March 20th, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Be the first to get local insight from the MLB experts of Locked On, and you will get also the national perspective. You'll get a very interesting sports wagering angle from Lee Sterling. A lot of great stuff on the MLB season preview for Locked On. Again, that's on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Definitely check that out tomorrow. All right, Steve. One more thing, because we've been talking about the lineup here, and I just want to hit on this because this lineup really doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. We talked a lot this offseason about depth. We talked a lot this offseason about how the roster can move around and how some things can change. And while positions within this 1 through 9 that we just said, again, rehashing, it's Jonathan India at DH and leading off, Ellie De La Cruz at shortstop batting second, Matt McClain at second base and batting third, Christian Encarnacion Strand at first base and batting fourth, Spencer Steer in left field and batting fifth, Jamer Candelario at third base and batting sixth, Jake Fraley in right field and batting seventh, Tyler Stevenson at catcher and batting eighth, and Will Benson in center and batting ninth. You can move those positions around, but I don't know that there's a lot of off days you can give them, because this bench is a bit of a problem.
It's not a bit of a problem. It's a problem. Look, if that's the lineup, and I don't see how it's not that combination of guys. Maybe they're in a up a spot, down a spot. Those are the guys that are going to start opening day. That leaves you Stuart Fairchild, Luke Maile, Nick Martini, and a dude named Ford. That's your bench. And of that, one of them's a catcher, 2 of them are left-handed, and you've got Stuart Fairchild. So if it's a right-handed starting pitcher, the lineup that we put out, that's great. If it's a lefty, and you've got to take Jake Fraley and Will Benson out, I don't know about just running Will Benson out there and saying, I hope he figures it out. I would almost rather see them create an outfield against left-handed pitching that goes something along the lines of India, Fairchild, Steer, left, center, and right, uses Luke Maile as the designated hitter, Lord Jesus,
Or
and gets those lefties out of the lineup. I just
that's the only way you could do that.
I mean, I just don't see any others. I just don't see how you can roll for 2 months with this bench. I don't see it.
Unless you are playing Will Benson every day. Like, pitcher handedness be darned, you're going to have a very problematic sounding outfield defensively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just no way to shake it. I mean, I love Jonathan India. I love Spencer Steer. They have both proven so far in their careers to not be that great of defenders. So I don't know what we're going to get out of that. And then you're asking Stuart Fairchild, who is a fine defender, but he is the only defender that you can really trust in the outfield at that point.
Our comment section is telling me that Stuart Fairchild's the next coming of Willie Mays. So I need Stuart Fairchild to go play all three outfield positions at the same time. He needs to cover the ground.
I'm not taking the bait on that one. Nick, I'll tell you this though. I kind of like the pop that Nick Martini has on his bat. And if we're squinting really hard, let's squint real hard for a minute. Let's do this, because I saw a stat about Mike Ford that surprised me in a good way. Mike Ford, left-handed player. He only plays one position. He plays first base and he can DH. That's not really that inspiring. But in his career, his OPS against left-handed pitching for a left-handed hitter, 920. He slugs over 500 against left-handed pitchers.
What's the sample size?
I hope you wouldn't ask. 97 at bats.
All right, so stop it. Get out of here with that. Get out of here.
Yeah,
Listen, the only redeeming thing about having Ford on this roster, and shout out to listener John Betton, because he pretty much nailed this. The only advantage to having Ford on this roster, and this comes from Twitter X, he says, he tags you and I and says that we are crossing our fingers, hoping that Mike Ford makes this team just for the chance to get his jersey in the mystery grab bag so it'll fit right out of the bag. First of all, sir, you're right. Second of all, great comment.
Be right back. I'm going to the gym. That's the
97 games. Get out of here with that slug. Come on.
No,
they have got to make an
not
adjustment.
97 games, 97 at bats.
96 even worse. Get out of here with that.
So yeah, no.
Come on, Jeffrey. No, they've got to address this bench.
Tough.
There's got to be there's got to be a little bit more balance. There's something. I continue to want them to go get Mr. Outside Higher as a right-handed outfield bat. At this point, Jeff, I'm really ready to entertain the idea of Blake Dunn being on this roster until Stuart Fairchild. Until TJ Friedl comes back.
That's gonna be interesting. I know that,
because I mean, who's gonna hit better? Is Will Benson learning to hit left-handed pitching on the fly in April when we need the Reds to win games better than having Blake Dunn learn to hit major league pitching at the big league level in April when we need to win games? I think it's better to have Blake Dunn out there trying to hold his own against major league pitching than having Will Benson trying to figure out the lefty on lefty.
See, no, I think that's 6-1, half dozen the other. I don't think there's a better option there. Like you're hoping for either one. Neither one's a strategy at this point. I feel like the Reds would be better served going and getting somebody. You're hoping that Blake Dunn could do that. I'm not going to sit here and say one option's better than the other for sure on that one. But one thing's for sure, the bench is
it's a mess.
It's rough. So that's going to be, yeah. What was that old Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis, the campaign? That's Nick Kroll. Get on the phone. Bring somebody to this bench because it's a mess. That was way too deep of a cut and way not worth it. All right, let's move on to the rotation because we know 4 spots and the 5th spot is up for grabs, quote unquote. And it's very confusing. And to preface all of this, they said that Nick Lodolo will not be ready until April 10th, but until April 10th, they will still have 5 guys in the rotation.
That's okay. And to expand a little bit further, we're seeing articles out of Goodyear projecting this rotation. They're going to take 5. They're not going to utilize the off day as a chance to skip the 5th starter. They're going to give the starters an extra day of rest. Those resting Reds, I think that's what you said when we were doing our prep.
Yeah.
It's so here's where fine. I can accept all of that. Fine. But then we talk about the names. And we've got what projects to be, we know Frankie Montas starting opening day. Hunter Green's going to go day 2.
Yep.
Graham Ashcraft
Looked good.
slot
Looked good
in
in his
behind
last
him.
spring training outing too.
So he gave up a lot of runs in his last outing, but he almost got through 5. It got a little rough there with 2 outs to go in the 5th inning, but he got his pitch counts up. He's got enough bullets in the arm to make his start to begin the season. Graham Ashcraft slots in behind him. You can count on Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets interesting to me. According to writers out in Goodyear right now, the number 4 starter in this rotation to start the season is going to be Nick Martinez, not Andrew Abbott. And I don't understand. I don't have concerns about Andrew Abbott. I think the guy that he was at the end of last season was a result of him being tired. And the guy that he was at the beginning might be a little inflated, and he's somewhere in the middle. I haven't been concerned. But now I'm concerned because the Reds are concerned. And you put this well when we were doing our prep. We have both decided that we believe in what Nick Krall is doing, and we believe in the direction and how he's running this team. And if we're going to say that, it's to say that we trust that he has better information and that he's going to do the right thing with that information. So if the Reds are concerned about Andrew Abbott, I'm concerned that the Reds are concerned. And then that's making me more concerned. And I don't understand the narrative around Abbott right now. I wish there was a little bit more information coming our way. But clearly, the powers that be do not like what they are seeing out of Andrew Abbott.
That's always something when we talk about with spring training, right? Is playing time and when guys get their chances. And I mean, he still had starts and things like that, but the fact that they have seen his starts and they have seen what he's done in Cactus League games, and they're still saying that he is vying for a spot, not that he has earned it, is interesting. And he's a guy that, I mean, there's no way. There's no two ways about it. He was the best performing pitcher on the roster last year. He didn't pitch the most games or the most innings, but in the innings in the games that he pitched, he was the best. So for him, yeah.
And to be clear, they're not saying he's the 5th starter. They're saying he's in competition with Brandon Williamson, who up until this week was pretty much a no-brainer that he was going to be going to AAA. Now, the shoulder soreness, that could have derailed that a little bit, but this narrative about him being in vying for the 5th spot was having him in direct competition with Brandon Williamson and then losing out when Lodolo comes back. And I can't wrap my head around all this.
But I haven't thought about that. Let's get to that though here in a minute though.
All right. So here's what we'll do. We're going to wrap up this talk about pitching coming up in just a minute. And then it's Matt McLain days until opening day. And we're going to be talking the best Reds players to ever wear numero 9. Amazon Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, the NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention the great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos. They have it all. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv.
Say goodbye to busted brackets with FanDuel, because they let you bet on every single game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on the big upset or the number 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's number 1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get up to $200 on bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's gonna win it all, or you can check out some MLB futures like Christian Encarnacion Strand's home run total FanDuel has the over-under on that at 23.5. That seems like the easiest over I have ever hit. I mean, I haven't hit it yet. He's got to hit 24 home runs, but he's going to hit 24 home runs. Hit the over on that one. Trust me on this. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops and Major League Baseball all day long, or, especially when it comes to the NCAA tournament until they cut down the nets.
You can join the Locked On Insiders today. Jeff has a revamped program and wants you to be part of the Insider Gang. For just $4.99 a month, you will become a smarter Reds fan and get all of the latest updates. Just text Insider to 513-597-0944 and get a free 14-day trial to see if you like it. Also, make sure you're following InsideTheReds.com. Jeff's writing over there. I'm writing over there. James Rapine, Audie Elmore, Rick Uccino, Caleb Sisk. Tons of talented writers covering the Reds in written form every single day. And get in on our Discord community. The season is coming 9 days away. You want to talk baseball during the game? Discord server. That's the way to go. The link to that is down in today's show description.
And before we jump into our conversation about the best number 9 to ever lace them up for the Cincinnati Reds, I wanted to put a bow on our rotation conversation, because I believe that Nick Martinez is in this rotation until Nick Lodolo comes up, even though he was listed as the 4th guy and the shoe-in to make the rotation in Charlie's article. I still believe that whoever wins, it should be Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott will stay in the rotation whenever Nick Lodolo returns, and then Nick Martinez will move to the bullpen, but still maintain like a 6th starter / long relief type guy role.
We made derail 9 days because you said my favorite word, 6th starter. Could that be a thing? Could we do that? Could Nick Martinez stay in the rotation and go with a 6-man rotation and a 7-man bullpen?
We have had this conversation, and you and I agree. I think that this would work. But we've had this conversation with multiple people around the organization and have been shot down every time, because people have constantly said that other teams have tried it and it hasn't worked. I've not heard concrete examples as to the other teams that tried it and didn't work, but they're kind of right, because I don't have an example that did work. And if I had an example that would work, then I would say it. But I still think that there's a chance that could be a thing. Like, just have guys go every 6th day instead of every 5th day. You're telling me that one day is going to mess up their routine to the point that they cannot perform well? And I think that these resting Reds would really benefit from adding an extra day of rest to their rotation that last year had lots of injury. I don't know, like, and maybe it's more MLB The Show than it is real life, but it just seems like a thing to me. It seems like something they could do.
All right, let's get off of that for a minute. Let's get into this 9 days away from opening day, because I could do a whole show on the 6-man rotation. But let's get into number 9s, because put the C on his chest, Matt McClain. That's what we're going to be calling him from now on. He's wearing number 9 right now, and he hasn't had time, I don't think, to become the best Red to ever wear number 9. He'll probably finish as the best Red to have worn number 9. But he's not quite there yet. And as much fun as it would be to just dub that on him now, I don't think we're going to go there. But this is an extensive list, Jeff. I mean, legends like Mike Moustakas and Jose Peraza. See, look, I said it wrong. Damn it.
Right. Legend. Marlon Byrd, Jack Hanahan, Willie Harris, Willie Bloomquist. A lot of Willies on this list, actually. But yeah, this is a long list, and the guys who were good were not here very long, like Dante Machette. And you go back in like the 80s, and you got Eddie Milner was on there.
Oh, but you skipped over Joe Oliver, and we're not going to let that stand. Joe Oliver,
is he the best right now?
9.
Kind of feels like
he might be. Listen, that's World Series champion. That's a fair ball down the left field line. Game 2 of the World Series hero, Joe Oliver. So I'm leaning heavily. I have a childhood memory bias here. That's going to be that might be my pick.
He's so, like, cross sport reference for a minute, but it's like whenever there's a NFL team who has gone past like week 8 and they're still undefeated. And so people start trying to find the 72 Dolphins and like put them on notice and all this other stuff. Like Joe Oliver is the best number 9 for the Reds right now, but he's on notice. Like Matt McClain might take that mantle from him just because Matt McClain is super, super talented. And I mean, you go down the list other than Joe Oliver. I mean, you've got some interesting names, like names who come up in fun conversations about the Reds, like Paul Bacco or Juan Castro. You can look, I mean,
one of the best baseball names is on this list though. Going back to 1956, Matt Batts.
Matt Batts.
Number 9.
I mean, that's a name. Matt
1956 Batts. Cincinnati Reds.
And this number is, I mean, it's a lower number, single digit number. So it's been used since jersey numbers were a thing. There's just not been anybody that's really taken a hold of this thing. I think it's Joe Oliver until Matt McClain proves to be the guy.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And that is where we are going to end it today, Jeff. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks so much for making us your first listen everydayers. Coming up in your feeds tomorrow, we have a special division preview for you where we are joined by all of the gang from Locked On, and we're going to tell you about the National League Central. So make sure you have subscribed and you've got your notification bell clicked so that you do not miss it. In the meantime, Jeff, we are 9 days away. We're almost there. What can the peeps expect from you and I as we are leading into opening day? And you know what? Why don't you go ahead and tease loosely just what we've got coming up over the next week or so and where we're going to land for opening day?
We got a lot of great stuff coming up for you. We'll be with you every single day, as we always are, because we're Locked On Reds every single day, and bringing great Reds content to your feed. We're going to have a great roundtable discussion on opening day with a couple of great folks talking about Reds baseball all year long as well. Should be a lot of fun getting to talk with them. Looking forward to that. And then we've also got, we're going to be, you and I, in the same room after opening day, and so you'll have that together. We might go live on Friday. I don't know. We'll see about that.
Well, we will. There will be a short live from somewhere, something, just even if it's you and I screwing around.
Yeah, a lot of great, all that great stuff coming up as we lead up to opening day. It's better than Christmas in Cincinnati. You know the deal. You're checking out a Reds podcast here during spring training. You've been with us every single day, hopefully, if you're an everyday. Or if you're not, make sure you subscribe. Because you know that we're going to be Locked On Reds every single day.
Hashtag Restin' Reds.
Restin' Reds. I don't know. I might run with that one. I kind of like that one.